Welcome to Garden Wall Recall.
A nostalgic time capsule, a no-spoiler book club of the original Over the Garden Wall fandom.
We are your creepy curators. I am Shocking Shelby.
I'm Chilling Charlie.
And I'm Ella!
Led through the mist by the milk light of moon, all that was lost is revealed. Our long bygone burdens, mere echoes of the spring, but where have we come, and where shall we end? If dreams can't come true, then why not pretend?
So, yeah.
The summer is over, gang.
We finished Gravity Falls, holy crap.
Yeah, and
That was amazing.
As Dipper's note said at the end, we will see you next summer when there is more Gravity Falls content to talk about. The vinyl's coming out. Excited for that.
But for right now, our Gravity Falls auditory museum thing, we were kind of thinking about closing it for the fall, to be honest. Like, most kind of themed places, you know, like, they're kind of seasonal, right?
Well, actually, most themed places don't close for the fall, Ella.
What? Shelby, you heard about this?
Every once in a while, for a little bit of a money grab, they'll retheme it. Yeah, I mean, like, that's what capitalism has given us. But I think we're allowed to do it, too.
Are you saying that this could be lucrative?
It could be
you're right.
so lucrative.
Pulling behind the curtain here, the reason we're doing this is it was a Patreon stretch goal, so...
Oh, so it's already been lucrative, actually.
Yeah!
We have already made the money. We just have to do it now.
The question is, how do you turn a Gravity Falls museum into a Halloween attraction? Like, what is a Halloween version of Gravity Falls?
Well, I think we should take, inspiration from the greats, right? Like Knott's Scary Farm before us, or Oogie Boogie's Big Boogie Bash.
I don't think was the name of a Disney attraction.
I think last time I checked, it was.
I love the retheming for it. I mean, like, it is an adult party, so...
Yeah.
I want a cover of the Oogie Boogie song with just a lot of F-bombs in it.
Yeah. Santa Claus, huh? I'm really f***ing scared.
That's Oogie Boogie's whole thing. He's made of worms and he says
He does.
All I can think is the, like, boo to you and you and you and you. It's f***ing Halloween.
You and you and you and you.
It is a summer tradition for many to rewatch Gravity Falls.
Yes.
And a lot of that same group does have a Halloween tradition.
That's true.
Because there is a mini-series on Cartoon Network that captures some of the same mystery 12-year-old vibes.
Mystery 12-year-old vibes.
Yeah,
It's a genre.
It's a genre now.
It is. That's true. Netflix's biggest show is mysterious 12-year-old vibes.
Mystery Teens. We are covering the 2014 Cartoon Network miniseries Over the Garden Wall.
Woo! Per Patreon request. Thank you to everyone who supported.
Thank you.
I've placed just a bunch of pumpkins all over the place. We got
the jack-o'-melons for proper jack-o'-lanterns.
And we got, you put, rats in the walls and cobwebs on... Oh, those were there. Wow, This place is in bad shape.
We did get Darlene to throw a couple extra ones up for us.
Did she give birth right here in our
yes.
in our museum?
Yep.
Amazing.
To a bunch of spiders?
Also, our docents are now scare actors, I guess.
That's right. We hired them to play, a bunch of Universal monsters and crap like that. They're all working here now.
Of course, obviously, to delegate, I can't coordinate all that. We had a lot of docents by the end.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I mean, we're not experts on scare acting, really. I mean, the idea of
jumping out at someone with a chainsaw out of nowhere, yeah, that
like
doesn't
you would
feel
at
like
a Not Scary Farm or that kind of attraction.
That doesn't feel like our sort of jurisdiction. So I've gotten Agatha Vile to train the docents on how to not.
Yeah, she's
be
kind of the
docent.
head scare actor here. Oh, there she is! Oh my gosh, Agatha, hello! Working hard or hardly working?
Wait a minute! I'm coming!
I mean, you got a lot of people to scare today. You must be running yourself ragged.
Are you alright? What happened to the chainsaw?
Wait a minute! God damn it!
Do you need help with that?
I'm putting it down!
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really heavy.
There's a bookshelf over there. Let's go stay there. Okay.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
that conducive to jumping out at people? That's a rather large knife.
Alright, listen. I didn't want to get in trouble with my roommate again.
Okay, fair enough.
So, I tried to turn Cherry into a werewolf, and that kind of went backwards. I don't want to get into that. So, I had borrowed my roommate's fiance's weapon.
Big knife?
The great knife.
Can you describe it for us or for our audience?
Most of you probably know. My roommate's engaged to a version of Pyramid Head.
Gotcha.
Not the one from Silent Hill 2.
Congratulations to the happy couple.
I know, right?
So she lives with the great-granddaughter of a villain from the Little Mermaid cartoon, and she's engaged to Pyramid Head. It's Halloween all year round there, it sounds like.
We could not have hired a better person to train these scare actors.
All right, thank
But
you.
you're saying that you borrowed Pyramid Head's knife?
Big knife?
A great knife. Listen, I Irish danced for 10 years. I didn't use my arms for 10 years. That thing is heavier than it looks.
But you got the leg strength. You lift with your legs, Agatha.
Yeah.
Can you maybe, hacky sack the knife at the guest, maybe? I don't know.
I can't feel my arms anymore.
I will say if you drag it behind you and run real fast, it'll probably make some sparks on the pavement.
Ooh, that would be spooky.
Oh, no, that's absolutely what I was doing in Ohio, and then I had to drag it all the way over here to the Mystery Shack because airplanes won't allow that type of weaponry on board.
What?
I wonder why not.
What is wrong with this country where you can't even take a several 100-pound knife onto a plane anymore?
It's not because it's a weapon. It's mostly because we won't be able to get off the ground.
He'll probably be here to collect it by the end of this special, so
Oh, that would be fun if Pyramid Head showed up. I wonder what Pyramid Head thinks of the show.
I'll just leave it by the bookcase. Just
Leave it here?
hazard warning.
Well, don't worry, Agatha. We're very experienced with pyramid-related, entities. We've got this.
Cherry's out back training some of the newbies.
By that, do you mean biting them and turning them into werewolves? Because that looks like that's what's happening.
You know, I didn't think this through very well, did I?
No, it's scary. I just hope it's reversible.
There's no werewolves in your show, is there?
Well, there are now,
Yeah.
I guess.
I was gonna say, are they now part dog, part werewolf, which diminishes the wolf capacity, and they're more sort of like a husky?
What breed is Cherry?
Oh, she's an absolute mutt, but that mutt includes Muppet.
Muppet. That's what Mutt is short for, I think.
So you have werewolf Muppet crab experiments.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, this is gonna be the
exactly what we need.
Wait,
best.
you've experimented on Cherry.
Well, of
Is that what
course,
you're saying?
she was my first crab experiment.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Oh, you turned a crab into a dog.
It didn't really go well. I was using a mitten crab. Have you ever seen those? They're very fuzzy. So I thought, I'll make something
Fuzzy mitten
adorable
crab.
with a Muppet, and then Cherry was born.
Well, you know what? I think the Muppetness really shows through in the eyes. I mean,
Oh, yes.
Cherry, you have beautiful eyes.
That's a good joke.
What if you told a big scary dog that it had beautiful eyes? Wouldn't that be weird?
That's from the first episode. We should probably, like we did last time, just go over what our goals are with this podcast and cover the unaired pilot.
Not as buried as the Gravity Falls pilot was.
You're right. Actually, unaired pilot is just what the Gravity Falls fans call the pilot.
But not all pilots are unaired.
This was fully aired.
I saw the whole series. I had no idea if there was an unaired pilot, and now you're telling me there was an aired pilot.
There was a
and now
pilot. It's been on YouTube since 2015.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm very tired.
I mean, you just dragged a knife several states over.
It's like a Final Fantasy weapon.
You take 10 or go watch Cherry, take care of them, and we got the museum from here if you'd like.
All right, I'll go out back. Can I bring you guys anything?
Maybe like some wolf's bane if you have it. I think that would help.
Do you have any Eye of Newt?
I would love some kisses from Cherry.
Oh, I can absolutely
No,
do
Shelby,
that
I don't
for
think you want. I don't think you want
Shelby,
that.
I don't. Right
Okay,
now, that
how
might be a
about
bad
this?
time for that.
I'll make some lemonade or maybe some raspberry tea, and then I'll figure out a cure. So her kisses are safe. All right, that good.
Okay, that
And
sounds
during
like-
all that, I'll train your, whatever they're called back there. I guess they're now your pack.
There we go, our pack!
Yeah.
Our Mystery
Pack of
Shack
scare
look
actors.
pack!
Your Muppet pack
Yeah.
of were-cherries.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a regular Muppets Haunted Mansion here.
Well, take care, Agatha. Thank you for all your help around the garden wall recall.
I will say one more thing. Potatoes and molasses taste awful together. But potato pancakes with molasses or maple
Now we're
syrup.
you're
speaking
right.
our language.
Yes.
All right.
Latkes.
Cherry?
Latkes and molasses.
No, wait, Cherry, drop him. Drop him. Good girl. Good girl.
Oh,
You're such a
dear.
good girl. I gotta go. She's eating someone. I gotta go. Bye.
Bye!
Oh, that Agatha Vile. All right, so, like with Mr. Shack Look Back, before we can really get into episode 1 of the series proper, we have to, we wouldn't really be doing it justice without talking about the story before the story in this episode 0, talking about the original pilot.
It's on the Cartoon Network YouTube, so if you would like to watch along when we cut on over to it, there will be a link in the description.
I would like to, before we get into it, give a bit of history thanks to the Over the Garden Wall art book. The quick rundown of it is basically that back in 2006, Tome the Unknown was originally pitched to Cartoon Network by the pilot's writer and director and the series creator, Patrick McHale. It was pitched to Cartoon Network with a show Bible that was constructed with all this, aged-looking paper and all these intricate, paper cuts and illustrations, and it instantly gave you, the vibe of what this show's going to be. It was super, mysterious and ancient-looking and rustic and woodsy and all that good stuff. And I'm now going to read directly from the book about what that original premise was. The story revolves around 2 half-brothers, Gregory and Walter, who accidentally board a train destined for the afterlife.
Walter?
Yes, Walter. After the conductor removes his face to reveal a skeleton, Gregory and Walter jump from the train mid-journey. They wander into a forest where they encounter a devil named Old Scratch, who tricks Gregory into a Faustian deal, and you know how much I love those.
You do.
Scratch promises to return them home if they read a book of forgotten stories, the Tome of the Unknown. If the duo fail, they'll be whisked away to, quote, live in the Dark Kingdom forever.
There are so
Walter-
many plot details there. I am glad they simplified it. Simplified. When it became a series, there's way less going on than that.
The decision for it to become a miniseries came after this pilot was even made, so it was imagined as a full series.
And Cartoon Network never would have a miniseries about that scary train.
Not that we can find anywhere except pirated.
There's no record that they ever have had a miniseries about a train.
They called it Scary Train, or so I think.
There's no way to tell at this point.
Yeah, prove it. You can't. Walter initially protests, but he adds his signature to the contract when he realizes Gregory has already signed. In blood. Old Scratch then grabs the book and tears out all the pages, flinging them into the air as otherworldly winds carry the sheets to the far corners of the land of the in-between. The floating pages reminiscent of autumn leaves, or Slender Man pages. The episodes follow Gregory and Walter as they track down the pages with with events from the stories coming to life in unexpected ways. So that was kind of the initial idea of the through line of the series, is that they have to track down all the pages of the book, and each time they find a page, they're going to live out whatever story that is. And it is coded in all of this, old, like you said, it's the Americana of,
It's a mixture of a bunch of different things that we equate in our head as old-timey animation. Because in the Over the Garden Wall series, there's a little Alice comedies, there's a little Fleischer, there's a little Wind in the Willows, there's a little, the backgrounds are like Pinocchio.
It's like that early 1930s style, early Mickey Mouse, Betty Boop, Alice kind of things.
There's some 1920s animation and some 1950s animation. It's
a nice melting pot of anything that feels vaguely old-timey. It's like the scene in the scene in Snow White where she's running through the forest and everything has a scary face, and that's the background design philosophy. It's described by McHale as the place between life and death, dreams and reality. Culturally, it is a mixture of American folklore, classic fairy tales, ghost stories, and dreamland. The landscape is never-ending and always changing, but usually has the feel of either colonial to Victorian New England or a German countryside. Which are like he's saying that like, oh yeah, you know, it's around that range. That's a huge range.
I mean, it's basically, that means that it's grim fairy tales and also Ichabod Crane.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually, about Ichabod, because The Wind in the Willows and Ichabod the Headless Horseman, those cartoons were paired together in The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, was the Disney film that connected those stories. And this is literally just what if those fused?
What if those fused, but then there's also German stuff like Snow White, and there's also early animation stuff like Betty Boop or the Alice comedies.
Yeah.
It's just and the landscapes are based on stock photos of New England in the fall, as well as, colonial and German architecture.
Although maybe Mr. Toad doesn't need to fuse with Ichabod, because on the Mr. Toad ride, you go to hell. Mr. Toad just goes to hell.
Well, that is kind of exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, Mr. Toad goes to hell, the series.
The Headless Horseman is there in hell. Yeah. Is basically the premise.
I mean, there are a lot of people that draw like parallels between this and Dante's Inferno, and you're in luck, because I've read Dante's Inferno twice.
Over the Garden Wall is like the Bible and Dante's Inferno and Purgatory and Lost and every possible like allegorical thing this could be. It is.
But the Tome of Unknown is very specifically a refuge for lost stories, and there are some ways that this specific short touches on that I really want to talk about after we watch it.
So when this was pitched in 2006, Cartoon Network wanted it to be a film instead of a series, which MacLeod did not agree with, and so decided to focus on the second pitch that he had called Space Planet, while he worked on Flapjack, a show that some guy named Alex worked on, I think, as well, was also on that show.
Yeah, a couple people.
And that's why Pat McHale voices one of the henchmaniacs in the Weird Mageddon arc.
But he ended up scrapping that pilot as well, because they wanted to pare down the pilot he was developing by like 4 minutes. He was like, I wouldn't know what to cut, so he just scrapped it. He became the creative director on Adventure Time, a little show you might have heard of, and he actually imported the character BMO from Space Planet, which I didn't know until I read this book, that BMO was just straight up a character that was going to be in his other shows.
I love that so much.
And that's very telling as well, the combination of that and the fact that he was also one of the forces behind the character The Lich, who is like just a straight up deathly serious villain on this comedy show.
Yeah.
The fact that he came up with both BMO and The Lich kind of tells you everything you need to know about Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah. I mean, that's Greg and the majority of the darkness.
Pretty much, yeah. And then in 2012, 6 years after this original pitch Bible, he created an updated pitch Bible that reflects the pilot that we are about to watch.
The Tome of the Unknown, Harvest Melody, is a short film/pilot written and directed by Pat McHale. It premiered on September 9th, 2013 at the LA Shorts Fest and at various festivals throughout the year.
I feel like that kind of tells you that Cartoon Network already recognized that this was like a big deal, that like they, rather than dumping it, into some internal project or putting it online, not that, putting pilots online is a completely valid way of doing it, but, premiering at film festivals, a pilot for a cartoon on Cartoon Network might be unprecedented. I don't actually know, but that feels like it signals that this is something big.
Yeah, I mean, they recognized the brilliance of what its potential had.
Yep. It also definitely functions on its own as a short film, which we'll get into right after we watch it. So let's all check it out. So that gave me chills, honestly. Like, I forgot how good this is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. John Crops, who is a man made out of crops, sort of the character of the day, despite it being, a one-episode affair, this pilot. But,
Yeah, but you can assume that, like, his story gets wrapped up.
Yeah,
so he's just kind of...
He is voiced by blues singer, or rather, country blues, vaudeville blues, calypso, hokum singer, C.W. Stone King, who looks exactly like how you'd picture him.
Yeah, he looks exactly like John Crotch.
Yeah.
And the music for that was done by the Blasting Company, formerly the Petrovic Blasting Company. They're a Los Angeles nouveau folk band influenced by the music of the Balkans and New Orleans Dixie, although they lean a little more into the New Orleans stuff in their...
Well, and for this one particularly, because it's all very... what is it, like antebellum South? Is that the era?
It is a very, like, Music Man-esque era, that early 1910s.
Oh, I was gonna place it as that one BoJack episode.
They've got trouble out here in the unknown.
I mean, like, down to the, like, kiss behind the hat, which happens in a lot of middle school productions of The Music Man.
And his bow tie spins. It should have. My main takeaway from all of this is that, and this applies to the series as well, also the Blasting Company did the music for the entire series, but my takeaway from this and the series as a whole is that Gregory is the most well-written child character I have ever seen in media, I think. I think that's true. Because, like, the first thing they do with him here that really strikes me is, like, he runs off, and you just hear him scream, and so Wirt and their friend Beatrice, of course, rush to see what the problem is, and he's eating an apple, and he's happy, but he's screaming like he's in pain, and he's like...
Greg! Greg? Greg! Greg! Are you... What's... Why are you screaming?
Because look what I found!
That's such a kid thing, and also just getting fixated on, like, a particular thing, like, for that day. It reminds me of Max and Ruby, how Max will always say a particular word or phrase, and he'll repeat it throughout the episode, like, that's where his mind is. And today, Greg wants to ride a goose. Like, that's what he's talking about. He's like, there's no geese around here. Like, he's such a kid, and he's so...
I regret to inform you that Colin Dean is 17 now.
Oh my gosh,
no, that's
still a
not
baby.
True. You're lying to me, though. You're lying, because I'm not that old. I'd be fine with it if I were, but it's not true. He's so, like, specific in how he's written. I would compare him to someone like, I don't know, like DW from Arthur, who is just... who veers on obnoxious, but, like, Greg, it never feels that way. Like, he gets on the character's nerves, but I feel like he never gets on your nerves. It's like...
I've met people who he gets on the nerves of, but one thing they get in the performance that usually is kind of glossed over with child voice acting, like, they don't want it, but it makes them sound so much more like kids, is he doesn't always do it, but his sentences are not paced correctly. Like, he doesn't know when to breathe.
Like, I remember I was watching something about Up, the behind the scenes of Up, and the kid who voices Russell, the Boy Scout, there were scenes where he had to be out of breath, so they had him, like, run around the booth a bunch of times. He came back, he was like,
I'll feed him, I'll give the food for him, I'll walk him, I'll change his newspapers, I will,
That was great.
For those listening, if you ever have to voice a child character, taking a breath in the middle of a sentence does way more than anything with your voice. If I were to just talk like this, children don't know when to breathe. They're not used to running out of breath yet, so they're never prepared for it.
Yeah. And the way he's written feels to me like watching someone else babysit a kid, where it's like, if it were me having to look after the kid, I probably would be a little more, like, troubled. But because I'm just observing, it's funny. Like,
there's something so pure about the way he's written. Because, like, with DW is written to be, like, that devious little sister. There is nothing devious. Yeah. There's not a single devious bone in Greg's body. Greg is, like, self-sacrificing, but kind and sweet and just a kid.
Yet it never feels overly wholesome or, like, unrealistically wholesome. He just feels like a kid.
Real kid.
Just feels like a kid who was being raised right, like, who has good parents.
And Elijah Wood voices Wirt, and usually,
oh my god,
I hate celebrity voice acting because Elijah Wood did star in potentially the biggest film trilogy of all time. He plays Frodo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings films. He's a really legitimately good voice actor that is excellently cast in this role. It is just his normal voice. If you watch him in interviews, that's how he sounds. But it's way more the case I hear people go, that was Elijah Wood? Then, oh, Elijah Wood's in this. I should check it out.
Yeah, because in Lord of the Rings, he's doing the accent the whole time.
I kind of hate the Frodo voice. The wide-eyed British child voice sounds so weird coming out of this 19-year-old man. Sam, look over here. I'm like, eh.
I can't carry the Tome of the Unknown, Greg. But I can carry you.
I got really into Lord of the Rings last summer, and I would watch interviews with Elijah Wood, and hearing him talk in his normal voice, I was like, why are you talking about Lord of the Rings, Wirt? What do you know about Lord of the Rings?
Are you saying that Wirt wouldn't be really into Lord of the Rings?
I'm just saying I was expecting Frodo to be talking about his role in the movies, not Wirt talking about how he likes them.
Yeah. The drawings in Tome of the Unknown are a lot less tied down than they are in Over the Garden Wall proper, and I love that. Like, there's so many weird, that you only really notice in comparison with the series proper, but there's so many weird angles on Wirt's face and weird expressions, and when they get the vegetable car from John Crops, and Beatrice goads Wirt into licking, like, the cucumber wheel, and there's just this drawing of him with his tongue out that's really stupid looking.
So, in this pilot, Beatrice is voiced by Natasha Leggero, who is best known for playing one of the lead roles of Another Period, along with Jason Ritter. But I actually first heard of her when I was making Ace Attorney Anime Abridged, and Lara from the Frog Kissin' Gals podcast,
yeah, good podcast,
confessed that the voice that she was doing for Mia was an impression of Natasha Leggero from Another Period. So I was very excited when I found this tangentially Gravity Falls related thing had a voice acting performance from someone who referenced it for a voice acting performance in something I made.
Yeah, who also acted alongside Jason Ritter in Another Period, right?
Yes.
And then, well, the connections will continue later on,
yeah.
I guess.
I love Tome of the Unknown.
It's great.
It would be really stupid if you didn't accept, because this was before Cuphead was finished. There was no one trying to aim towards
I think all of human history happened before Cuphead was finished.
Yes, that's true.
But that's good, though, because they were specifically avoiding crunch. I don't mean to insult Cuphead. I mean to praise it.
Yes, it took 10 years to make, but prior to that, nothing was really doing this kind of Betty Boop sort of look outside of like little vignettes and moments. And of course, there was an inspiration to the look of My Life as a Teenage Robot, but not to this extent.
Yeah.
Well, and also that was focusing on like the Art Deco of it all, and this is blending it with like the German and colonial stuff that came before it.
Yeah, the movement is very Fleischer, but the drawings are very paintings in your grandma's house / Wind in the Willows.
It's taking things that in other cartoons are there as a bit stylistic reference and this is now just the thesis of the entire show visually.
Listening to the Blasting Company's music and looking at this backgrounds that are styled after Disney layouts from the 40s by background painter Nick Cross.
Shout out to Nick Cross.
And hearing I just gotta play you a clip of John Croft's voice, because he's clearly not a voice actor. He's clearly a blues singer, and his diction when he's speaking is not good, but it doesn't feel like you're meeting a cartoon old farmer. It feels like you're meeting a real old guitar playing farmer.
Now, what are you folks doing out here in the middle of nowhere, listening to poor old John Croft singing his sad songs to himself?
And Nick Cross really leaned into the handmade feel of it. I think in some of the backgrounds you can even see pencil sketches of like underneath.
Yeah, there's
and obviously it all is very hand painted.
There's imperfections in the backgrounds to make them look hand painted to give that sort of 40s Disney Pinocchio feel.
Yes, as well as the soft focus, which I love. There is a Vaseline on the lens kind of look to the corners that they, I think in the show proper, I don't know if they do, I think they swap it out for like a vignette effect where it's darker on the corners, which I love. Again, that's a throwback to just the way that cartoons were presented, like in that era.
To Nickelodeons.
Yeah,
you would look at the center of a cartoon. Those corners didn't even exist. You kids and your cartoons having corners.
You see John Crops lift up his skirt slightly to see his ankles, and he winks at you, and that's the cartoon.
The song he sings...
Can't you see I'm lonely, lonely as can be? For I want you only, there's no one else for me, and you know it.
That is legitimately a lost story.
Right, because the thesis of Tome of the Unknown is that they are meeting the lost stories that are contained in the tome.
Yeah, it was a pretty popular song from the 1900s. It was featured in the Wizard of Oz stage musical, and it did not stand the test of time. It's not one of those turn of the century classics your grandparents would listen, or great grandparents, I guess, would listen to. You know, if you Google it, the first couple of results are relating to the Blasting Company or Tome of the Unknown. So they legitimately found a lost story and interspersed those into the narrative as the musical numbers and the...
Yeah!
I love this so much!
This whole thing is so brilliant. Like, just a gorgeous piece of media. I remember prior to seeing this, just at the beginning, all of the promo stuff for Over the Garden Wall had clips from Tome of the Unknown in it that never showed up in there, so I was always wondering where the watermelon car came from.
It is a lost story in itself.
And of course all the best clips in the theme song are from the unaired pilot you never got to see.
That's so, it became its own lost story.
And that's hilarious. I didn't even know that because in Real-Time Fandub, when we were about to do one night for Halloween, dubbing all 10 episodes of Over the Garden Wall in succession. By the way, the episodes are 11-minute long. The whole show is the length of a movie. Just watch it.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max
for now.
We laugh so we don't start crying.
In Real-Time Fandub, we dubbed Tome of the Unknown to use it to make a trailer for the Over the Garden Wall stream, because you can't really make trailers for improvised things.
Right.
We decided we'd get the cast that was going to be in the Over the Garden Wall stream to dub Tome of the Unknown, just so we could play clips at the end. I believe it's in our Summerween dub.
That would make sense, yeah. So apparently the pilot was storyboarded solo by Pat McHale, which explains why there are so many hilarious drawings that it's all done by one person just blitzing through this 9-minute pilot. But from a storyboarding perspective, I'm very excited for the series proper because I believe there are different board artists on every episode, a lot of whom are famous in their own right for their cartoons. So we'll see a lot of familiar names pop up in that category.
And we'll see a lot of returning docents here to be trained as scare performers.
Yeah, hopefully they get turned back to humans now, and we can slowly start to bring them back.
As well as a couple of scare wolves, that's not too bad.
Scarewolves is so extra because werewolves are already scary. You don't need to make a Halloween version of that name, and now I'm obsessed with it, and I'm going to use it in something at some point.
It's been bouncing around my head the whole time. I just wasn't sure when to fit it in.
I'm obsessed with it. I'm just gonna write that down on a piece of paper and use it in something besides this podcast eventually.
Okay.
Scarewolves. They're like werewolves, but scary. For Halloween, the werewolves are being rethemed to scarewolves, Ella.
Yeah.
I always, whenever looking at the animation for this, I always thought about those, like, Victorian greeting cards.
Yes, yeah.
Like those Victorian Christmas cards.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about paintings in your grandma's house, because there is influence from early 1900s animation, but then there's also influence from late 1800s paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's like if a Betty Boop type or a Wind in the Willows type were somehow Looney Tunes back in actioning around classical turn-of-the-century art.
It's, like paintings of autumn landscapes, and then the colonial architecture is from the 1700s and 1600s, but then the German Hansel and Gretel type architecture is from, like, the 1100s.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, it's incredible, I guess. Yeah, now that you mention it, it's incredibly Hansel and Gretel. It's just two kids wandering around.
Oh yeah,
lost,
no, I mean, and that's where the German influence comes from, as well as Snow White.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, it's that, and Pinocchio is also all the stories are like, don't be bad or you'll get eaten by something in the forest, kids.
Yep.
Well, the interesting thing about all those German fairy tales is they started from a matriarchal standpoint and then were translated into a patriarchal I could go. This is one of my.
Go off.
So originally, all of those stories, all of those fairy tales that we know have been filtered so many times through so many different things. Filtered through translators from German, filtered through the Grimm brothers from other people, and those stories were told from other people to the Grimm brothers. But they started out as a way for little old ladies to walk around the countryside spreading new laws. Because not everybody was literate, so they would basically put up the laws, the little old ladies would get together and be like, oh, well, how are we going to tell this to the people? Oh, we'll tell a story about a little girl who's walking through the woods and a stranger is talking to her, and it like...
But then it turns out to be a scarewolf!
A scarewolf! Yeah, so it's
You know
like...
what happened to him? He died!
Yeah.
So yeah, all of these stories were like little stories about laws trying to keep people safe and protected, and then they've been filtered through so many different things.
These people are so stupid! How are we gonna keep them from dying?
How are we gonna keep them from dying? They like hearing stories.
Ah, yes, let's use stories!
Maybe we'll tell them stories and they'll apply it to their life.
And that's what I hope to accomplish with the rest of this podcast. I hope to live...
You know, we tell ourselves stories in order to live, some say, but others say we tell ourselves stories in order to not die.
And those are different.
Those are very different stories. I prefer the not die stories to the live stories, personally. They're way more entertaining.
Now don't you go dying now!
There's so many ways to do it, but you shouldn't do any of them.
Here are several different ways you can die. Avoid them!
Was that just the old world German version of the DARE program?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are so many ways for you to die. We're going to describe them in detail.
You can reimagine absolutely any German folktale as an anti-drugs PSA. Like Little Red Riding Hood wandering through the woods, but here comes the big bad wolf. Hey kid, you want to try some flowers? I've never seen flowers like these.
You see that big bad wolf? That big bad wolf's gonna try to offer her some drugs, but don't let him do it to you, kids.
Despite being a fellow canine, there is no relation between McGruff and the big bad wolf.
I actually grew up on the same street as the big bad wolf, and then I narked on him, and that started me down my path. We got caught in the same bust, but they gave me a deal if I ratted out on the big bad wolf.
McGruff is the Tim Allen of cautionary dog characters.
Yes, and he has beautiful eyes. We tried to get McGruff as a scare actor, but he was a carewolf, he said. I don't do scary stories. So I'm excited for the rest of the show. It's gonna be a lot of cool docents, a lot of great storyboard artists to talk about, a lot of great VAs to talk about, and great actors. And if you want to find more episodes of this podcast, or the podcast it's a spin-off of on the same feed, Mystery Shack Look Back, go to our host network, pipedreampodcasts.com, where you can find other shows like Escape from Walt Disney, which features Agatha Vile, How Did This Not Get Made, Come On, Fahuquapods, and Pod Made You Special, revisiting VeggieTales. I don't think John Crops is there, though.
There you can find a link to our show's social medias, Discord server, and our Patreon. Patreon.com/Mystery Shack. $3 will get you a shout at the end of episodes. $5 will get you into a channel where you can watch Tome of the Unknown with us on the day that this is being released.
Yeah.
And for $40, you could get an art or voice commission from one of us.
Yeah, you want me to draw you as a Betty Boop type, you know?
I have a Christopher Lloyd in my back pocket. You want me to...
I wonder where that'll come in.
That might come into play a lot in this podcast, actually.
Yeah. You could check out our merch store at crowdmade.com/collections/Mystery Shack Lookback. I guess, since I'm making the cover art for this, I'll probably add some stuff for Gardenwell Recall as well. You can contact us at mysteryshacklookback@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts on this pilot, or Over the Garden Wall in general. Thank you to Sim and the Dim Bulb V2-0 for making our instrumental to our intro song. Well, I would love to talk more about Tome of the Unknown, but I actually have to go play a show in the big vegetable city. It's kind of a big deal. It's a big gig for me, actually. It's a good get. And I have to rehearse. But I guess I could do that right now. Play us out with that.
I never dreamed that there'd come a day when I'd find myself far from your arms. Now that I am, I can hardly stand not to be near your sweet southern charms. Send me a peach from old Georgia, down where the savannah flows. If I could have one bite of Georgia, I would feel right here at home. I miss the shady all lanes there, walking with you by my side. Just send me one peach from Georgia, just so I know you'll be mine. I hope that you won't forget me before my road leads back to you. The winter may bring the whole world to its knees. The spring shall return with its fruit. The wind here is ready for winter. It seems to turn everything blue. So just send me one little peach, just a sweet sunny piece of you.
Hey y'all, Ella here. I hope you enjoyed this first adventure over the garden wall. Stay tuned for more, and until then, here is the thanking of the patrons. Thank you so much to Daddy Driftwood, Elizabeth Neuenfeld, Adam with 2 A's, a D, and an M, Easy Snake Oven, Friendly Local Geek, Hope, Hugh Salinas, Jamie Belts, May, Oliver Pluto, Juno Series, Richard Scanland, Ro Davis, Samantha Angley, Spencer Neil Campbell, Vanillan Zucker, Petey Piranha Plant, B. Calisoda, David Gansel, Daddy Buttons, Delphine Dussy, Gwen Prime, Jessie Marie McDougal, Junior Bruh, Mumpleteen D. Wumpleteen, Ryan Faber, Stephen Patrick Mulholland, and Sterling Jubilation Axel. Help us keep the lights on in this podcast museum, whatever this is, at patreon.com/mysteryshack.